This is First Step.
Hey, welcome to the First Step Podcast. My name is Kevin. Thank you guys so much for joining us. It is a beautiful day. And with me, I have the one, the only, Stupid Stu.
Welcome.
And I also have with me freaking the man, the myth, the legend. We have Charlie Pigskin. Oof. Witness, baby. Witness it. Witness the magic. Guys, we had a hell of a weekend of college football, man. I want to focus on college football today. We're going to be talking about professional football and hockey later on. Make sure you guys follow, like, and subscribe for all that stuff. I think we're finally done with October football. We are coming into the beauty that is November football, where things start to matter more. We're past the midpoint season of college football by far. We're past the midpoint season in NFL football, and the world is spinning in a wonderful way. Election season's about to be over, and we could all just focus on one beautiful thing, and that's the ball between the 100-yard lines. We're super excited. I think the stakes are high, the rivalries are hot, and everyone's pushing for their bowl or to secure a spot in the college football championship. I think Week 10 has some great matchups. If you're a betting person like us, there's a lot of fun things to look at. But yeah, I mean, let's talk about Week 9 just real quick. A lot of good things happen here. We have Boise State just squeezed out a nice little win over UNLV 29-24. A lot closer than I thought, right, Chucky?
That was nice. I had the over, and I thought both teams did a much better job defensively than I expected. I think Genty ended up with 130 yards, but under 4 yards of carry, which we just haven't seen all year. So kudos to that UNLV defense. They tackled well, played really hard. And a hard-fought win for Boise. I think you got to think they're the odds-on favorites to represent the G5 in the playoff now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they kind of almost locked it up. I think they had some great big wins. I like them a lot. Notre Dame did well. Ashton Genty cemented himself as a Heisman candidate. We have him as our first pick. I would say most of us do. He's having a credible season, a record-breaking season. Looks like he's a young Barry Sanders out there, but not far behind him. Our boy, Cam Ward, representing the U. Stupid Stu, talk to me. How was the game? How was the vibe?
The game was great, sold out. The Rock was packed. Not a lot of garnet and gold there, I can tell you that. I mean, I'm there every single time, and it was all orange. Tailgate vibes were great. Canes, scored on 7 of 8 possessions. FSU forced us to run the ball, ran the ball really effectively, had control of the whole game. Couldn't get enough touchdowns, settled for field goals. It was a good game. Good vibes. Defense played better, and it was a easy win against your rival. You'll take that every single time.
Every single time. I think Miami just solidified themselves as the best team in the state historically, and from now on, from the future, no other team is going to be recruiting down here. Mario Cristobal said it. There's one team that their future looks clean, and it's the University of Miami. Big 12 has been full of surprises this year. A lot of teams that we liked early on in the season, like Oklahoma State and Utah, not living up to the hype. BYU, Colorado have started playing a lot better. Colorado looks a lot better than they did last year, but you don't really hear about them as much this year as you did last year either. Very weird. I wonder if it's just like the press kind of backed off them. They're like, these guys aren't that good. But they're playing really good football, beating some good teams. Oregon still holding steady at number 1, killing Illinois last week. And, Dylan Gabriel really, kind of making a name for himself. Put a little splash there in the Heisman. He's a favorite on the books. I don't understand that. How do you feel about that, Charlie? Talk to me about your boy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not as high as Dylan Gabriel as everyone else. I think in some sense it makes sense. Oregon's ranked number 1. His best game was against Ohio State. That was, probably one of the 2 or 3 most high-profile games of the season. But if I was handicapping it, I think the favorite should either be Genty or Cam Ward. If it was me personally choosing right now, I would turn a ballot in for Travis Hunter. In the truest sense of the word, outstanding, which is what the Heisman's supposed to go to. I think Travis Hunter's just doing something we haven't seen in a generation of football. So, in my opinion, Hunter should be first on the ballot. But I think if you have any of those 3, it's fair. If you have Dylan Gabriel, touch grass, watch some more football, because I think you're missing on better players.
You're not. What type of college football are you watching? Because you're not watching the same ones we are. Yeah, I agree with you. I think Dylan Gabriel should not be the favorite to win the Heisman candidate. Stupid. I think it's Gentry, Cam Ward by a mile. And then, if you go for a third, you go for Hunter. Fourth spot is kind of open right now. Maybe you give it Gabriel. Maybe you give it to Allen or someone like that. How do you feel about Dylan Gabriel being the favorite as the Heisman?
I think it's a horrible pick. I think he's a good pick if you want to get a chair and you just want to take the. There's not even odds right now. And look, the Heisman traditionally goes to a quarterback that finishes the highest on a high-ranked team, and Oregon looks like that team that's going to finish that high-ranked. And Oregon's got unbelievable receivers, so I kind of understand why this is happening in the betting markets per se, but I'm not betting it. I think it's really a two-man race. I do think Travis Hunter, like Charlie Pixian was saying, deserves as much attention as he can get. I just think it's going to be difficult for him to win if Colorado does not really solidify themselves in the Big 12 race. And right now they're on the outside looking in. So I really think it's a Genty Cam Ward race. And Cam Ward, I'm not betting against him as good as Genty is. I mean, you can go through the stats. Miami's number one in offensive team stats in 3 categories. Cam Ward's top two in the country in all kinds of passing stats, touchdowns, yards, everything. Hasn't changed since week 1. So I'm sticking with Cam Ward.
I love it. I think it would be a lot of fun to see the 4 guys that we talked about, Gentry, Ward, Hunter, and then give me Shador Sanders. Those 4 guys, I don't know where they're doing the Heisman Award this year. Hopefully they do it. I wish they did it at the Sphere, like the Las Vegas Sphere. I want everyone to go. I want to see Magic.
I think it's always in New York in the Downtown Athletic Club. They're like in the financial district.
I don't want that. I want the
It's their
Sphere,
award.
and then I want to see the giant U on the Las Vegas Sphere. I want it all spread out, and then Cam Ward's face coming out of it.
It's going to be awesome.
Baby. All right, let's
Whole
jump.
NFL's doing it.
The whole NFL. It's the best thing in college football right now. That, and I will say, is it Vanderbilt? Is it Vanderbilt or Tennessee that has the turnover guitar? Have you guys seen that? Phenomenal.
Vandy.
I think it's Vandy. Every time they do a turnover, they're just rocking a guitar with a cowboy hat. I freaking love it. All right, let's get into week 10. We got a lot of good games. First game, biggest game, super exciting. A lot of things on the line. Ohio State at Penn State. This is as good as college football gets. 2 top 5 powerhouses in a huge defensive clash. Ohio State comes in 6-1 with their defense barely giving up 12 points a game. Penn State is undefeated, but they've had a few close games. Drew Eller has been banged up. We don't know if he's going to be playing, but Bo Pribula has held his own. And the question is, can he handle Ohio State's defense? This is a very good defense, number 2 in the country. I like Ohio State here, giving the edge to them. I know they're banged up. I do like them here. It's a 3.5 point spread. It's going to be tight. It's going to be a grind. I like Ohio State. Stupid Stu, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I've been, had Ohio State at the top of my polls for pretty much the entire season, but I think they're dealing with real issues in that camp. I think the Josh Simmons left tackle going out for the season is no good.
Yeah.
I think the tight end being out is no good. I just think they're in a little bit of a slump right now. I think most people are going to lean on Chip Kelly and Jim Knowles, those big-time coordinators, to come up with a good plan. Maybe they were in a look-ahead situation. They didn't look very good last week against Nebraska. But I have some real concerns here. I think Penn State's defense is playing great. I think Abdul Carter's a monster on the edge. I think Ohio State's offensive line is really the biggest question. You can have all these weapons on the outside, all these nice Ferraris and Lamborghinis, but if you can't block up front, you're in big trouble. Because it's 3 and a hook, I'd take the hook every time. So I'm leaning with the Nittany Lions here on the spread. Really, I like the under the most. I haven't pulled the trigger yet just with this Drew Aller news.
Oh, you dog. All right, buddy. Charlie, how do you feel about this game?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously the Drew Aller news is going to be the most important thing. A true freshman, Bo Tribula, playing would be, a tough way to have to beat Ohio State. But obviously, I think I don't put too much stock into these type of narratives, but it is an interesting one when covering the game is, the James Franklin versus top 5 teams and top 10 teams and rivals like Ohio State, Michigan, and big-time teams. They just frankly haven't come through. I think this Penn State team is different. I think one of the reasons is that they've shown a big play on offense capability with Drew Aller, Singleton, Tyler Warren, and company that I think really compete against these best teams. And I really, really like Andy Kotelnicki. He's made a real impact on this team. You've seen Drew Aller take a huge step this year that I know I didn't think was possible. And I've just been really impressed week in, week out the play by Penn State's offense and their team. And like Stu touched on, Ohio State is a lot of things to sort out right now. This is a team that I thought, even though they lost to Oregon, I didn't really downgrade them at all. They went on the road in a tough environment and basically played them to a draw. So I didn't, I still had Ohio State as the best team in the country in my ratings, but I've downgraded them. I think I was expecting that to kind of spark something and get them to play a lot cleaner football, and they just haven't. And then now their tackles are ravaged injury wise, and I just don't think we've seen them kind of hit their stride yet. So I think if I had a lean, especially if Drew Aller was playing, would definitely be Penn State. I think the atmosphere is just going to be absolutely crazed. I think they're going to be ready to go, and this is a real chance for Penn State to make a statement. But with the Drew Aller news, it's just hard to put, to bet the under, to bet the numbers too low to
Yeah.
bet the under. Drew Aller not playing makes it hard to bet Penn State. So as of right now, it just seems like a game I'm going to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the most watchable game. I think this is a fun game. Again, if you're listening to this, these are kind of the leans we're going. We lock in most of our leans on Saturday morning's picks. We'll confirm everything we like. But you're absolutely right. This is a tough game to cap, especially without the news being confirmed on Penn State side on whether their quarterback is going to play or not. Let's go on to a different game. A classic SEC slugfest between Texas A&M and South Carolina. Texas A&M is on a roll. 7-game win streak, likely to stick to the ground game with Marcel Reed. South Carolina still eyeing bowl eligibility, and they have that tough front seven as well. Their QB also can run very well. I think this game is going to be super low scoring. I think they both have rock solid defenses. I like this at 44.5 under. Charlie, how do you feel about this game?
Yeah, I mean, A&M is a team that's really coming on. We saw what they did to LSU last week. I think it was
Yeah.
a weird game, and I think it's hard to know what to take away from that from a perspective of how good is Texas A&M. Connor Wegman, they're playing kind of quarterback roulette. One game,
Yeah.
Wegman struggles, and Marcel Reed comes in and plays great. Next week, it's Marcel Reed just seems to not be able to operate an offense, and Wegman comes in and plays great. So I think it's buyer beware right now with Texas A&M. The South Carolina team knows who they are, and really stout defense. They've done it every single game against every opponent. That D-line has feasted and done really well. It's if that's still where it's at, I think that's a little too tight to pull the trigger on South Carolina, but it's definitely a game I'm going to monitor. I think A&M still doesn't know what their identity is on offense and how they're going to do it. Even though they just had a game where they put up 40 plus on LSU, I still think it was a little bit of fool's gold there with Marcel Reed kind of showing you some greatness and also some awful play this year. So it's hard to know where to go.
Marcel Reed could move, though, buddy. He looked great.
Yeah, no, he's a playmaker.
He can
He did it
move.
to Florida. He killed Florida. And then the next week he played against like a G5 team and couldn't move the ball at all. I think that's not a guy I would trust with a chance for a defensive game plan against him, especially a defense like South Carolina.
Stupid about this game.
Right?
Yeah, I agree a lot with what Charlie was saying there, actually. I did pull the trigger at 3. This is one of my favorite picks, taking South Carolina at +3. I do think Texas A&M's a little fool's gold. I think they're a really good team. I really do. But I also think these issues they've had have been all season. They act like a genius move to go to Marcel Reed last year. I mean, he's outsnapped Connor Wegman this year. Both quarterbacks are just not very good. They have different, skill sets, which is a advantage to them to play that in the situation. But I think South Carolina up front is going to be able to slow down Le'Veon Moss and make a lot of trouble for this Texas A&M offense. This offensive line, I mean, they were getting dominated by LSU up front in that first half. It was kind of a tale of two halves of that game. I think South Carolina's a pretty good team, man. They played really well, should have won that LSU game, played Alabama really well. I think the South Carolina team is good up front. They could play really well, and then now you have this Texas A&M game. I'm not buying too much stock into this A&M team. I do think they're a top 15 team, but I'm catching points in a winnable game. I'll take the Gamecocks.
I like it. I mean, it's South Carolina. I was high on them earlier in the season. They kind of disappointed me. I lost a lot of money on them on a few different bets, so I don't love them, but I don't hate it on this game here. Next game I have Ole Miss at Arkansas. You guys are going to make fun of me here, but I'm expecting a little bit of chaos here. I think Arkansas has a chance to knock Ole Miss out of the playoff picture. I think at Razorback Stadium, Ole Miss does not do well. I think Arkansas offense is ranked number 27 and it's looking better. I think that they're going to take Ole Miss. I like Arkansas here at +7. Watch out and not see just a full-blown money line bet coming my way from Arkansas as well. Stupid Stu, how do you feel? How stupid am I on this one, Stupid Stu?
I don't think you're too stupid. I think 7 is a little too much. I like the 7. I haven't made it a play yet. I'm still watching this. Kind of interesting on Ole Miss. We've seen this super fast tempo Lane Kiffin offense that's kind of been expected to be one of the top scoring offenses in the country. They've kind of been getting by on their defense. Their defense has been playing unbelievable recently. So I kind of lean the under here. but it's already gone down about 4.5 points now. I just looked at it. It opened at 58. It's down to 53.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping for a little buyback. Maybe I can catch it around that key number of 55. But I like Arkansas. They can win this game. We've seen them play really well, play spoiler at home already. Great offense, great ability to play here, and Ole Miss is got some issues. So I like the Hogs here.
Nice. Charlie, how do you feel about this game?
Yeah, I mean, Ole Miss is one of those teams that I love looking at the numbers. I love trusting the numbers, diving in there. They're top 10 still in the rating. I think they're top 5 right now in SP Plus. I just don't buy that. I know they've had a lot of tough losses in games that on the stat sheet they've dominated and not come through. Kentucky, and I forgot which other one. But man, this offense just doesn't have that same zip. I think it's a team that misses Quinshon Jenkins. I think there was some like weird celebrations happening in the offseason, acting like they did the portal right and gamed the system by saving money and not paying Jenkins and able to get some of those defensive players that they got in. I think their team is screaming out needing for a playmaker like Jenkins. So I lean Arkansas, especially if it's around 7. I'm not ready to pull the trigger, but definitely if it's over 7, I would pull it really quickly. I think Ole Miss is still a good team, but this is not the team we thought they were preseason.
Yeah, they're not.
Huge Hog fans.
We're big fans of the Hogs. Hey, Arnold Palmer, baby. The big swing, baby. Miss. Listen,
I'm
next
wearing Arkansas red right now.
there you go, man. We're full blown Hogs over here. USC at Washington. USC is favored here at 2.5 points. Kind of a slight win or slight favorite. I think the Trojans have been great with QB Miller Moss has been playing really, really good football. Lights out lately. Will Rogers has a great home record, but he is struggling on red zone and third down possessions. What do I like here? I like the under at 55.5. I see this game going 28-20 USC. Charlie, how do you feel about this game?
My lean right now is Washington. I think this, Lincoln Riley's done kind of a weird, how he's managed this offense, I think has been a little bit odd. I mean, every game, they're just going back and dropping Miller Moss 60 times a game and making him make all these plays, and it's been just kind of inefficient. And I think Washington's pretty good. It's this game's at Washington. I know what we saw against Indiana has been great, wasn't great, but this has still been a pretty solid defense all year. I think it's gonna be a really, really. I think it is a really close game. Comes down to the end. I lean Washington. I'm not ready. Got to dive more into this to see how I feel, especially about that Washington offense. That's hard to trust, even with a offensive coach I like. But I'd love that home field advantage in Seattle. I think you hear a lot of players talk about that stadium being one of the toughest to play in, and I think this is a game, against USC, a name brand like that, a fellow former Pac-12 team that they'll be ready to go.
Stupid Stu?
Yeah, I mean, at 2.5, I need 3 points to play Washington. I won't play him at 2.5. I do think Washington played a little better than the score situated ended up last week at Indiana, but Indiana's been this awesome team. A couple unfortunate turnovers there from the Huskies which kind of kept them out of that game. I do think USC is the better team here. Looking at your pick, under is probably my favorite play here. 55.5, great number to get right there. I wrote this one down. This is probably going to make my score sheet. I really like the under here. Both teams have been playing pretty good defense in the last few weeks.
Yeah, I like the defense there, and I think this is going to come down to kind of who controls the clock. That's why I have the under here. Next big game. You're going to love this one. Florida versus Georgia. Florida looking to pull up a Cinderella story against Georgia, who's heavily favored on this game. 17 points. DJ Lagway has a cannon and could exploit Georgia's defense with deep shots. Florida has to win at least one upset game to hit bowl eligibility. So they'll be playing like it's their last chance against a Georgia team that we've seen been exposed a few times. I think this game is going to stay a little bit tighter than expected. I like Florida at 16.5. I'm going to let you go ahead and talk to me about why I'm so right on this. Charlie Pigskin, go for it.
I mean, I don't know if you're right on it. I wish I was confident, but the fact that it's year 3 of this regime under Billy Napier and we're still 16-point dogs against our number 1 rival, I think says it all. We're just not where we should be. I know we got a true freshman. I'm so excited to see DJ Lagway play. I know he'll make mistakes. I know that it sucks to have a true freshman going against Kirby Smart in that defense after coming off a bye. But I'm excited to see what he's got. I think, the time's running out on Napier unless he could do something extraordinary. And this is a chance to do something extraordinary. Beat your number one rival, beat them when they're at the top of college football, and really do it with a true freshman quarterback that's your handpicked guy that's shown to have the talent and deep ball ability. I think if we had a draft from scratch right now, DJ Lagway would be pretty high up there for players picked, with a true freshman with his ability. This is a chance to drive that Ferrari and really prove something. Ultimately, it's hard to have confidence in Napier versus Kirby Smart in a big game. I don't think this is a game that Georgia overlooks. Like I said, they're coming off a bye. They hate Florida, and Kirby Smart spent his college career losing to Steve Spurrier and kind of forming him as a player and as coach. So I don't think there's a game he'll ever take lightly. I saw how pissed he was in 2020 when Dan Mullen and Kyle Pitts ran it up on him. So, it's hard to feel confident. I don't like betting on games Florida's involved in. I got plenty at stake regardless. But look, this isn't about covering a ridiculous 3-score spread. This is about playing Georgia and beating them. So I wouldn't be happy to lose by 3, even if we impress. Like, it's about winning. Like, it's about beating your rivals. It's, we've only beaten one rival in the Napier era, and it's time to put one on the board. I don't care how unlikely it seems.
That's what college football is about. It's about the games like
Yeah.
this. Stupid Stu, how do you feel about this game at the greatest happy hour in the world?
The
Open
world's
cocktail.
largest outdoor cocktail party.
There
And
it
let me
is.
tell you something.
Show. It
It
was
lives
a
up to
wild
the
show.
name.
It's always Halloween weekend.
Yeah.
There's costumes are out.
It's-
People are dressed up like absolute nut jobs.
And
And
it's just
go
the
ahead.
tailgates, just the fact that it's 50% Georgia, 50% Florida. Everywhere you go, it's a huge Georgia tailgate next to a huge Florida tailgate. It's just the wild atmosphere the whole weekend.
Few people know how to tailgate as well as Florida, Georgia for folks. How do you feel about this game?
Yeah, I lean the Gators here. Haven't made it a play yet. Still watching out with Georgia because Georgia looked unbelievable last time we saw them take the field. I lean the under here too. The styles make fights here, and this is a big game. Both teams coming off the bye. Florida running a lot of slower offense, running the ball a little better. Jaden Ball looked really good last game we saw him play. Florida running a lot of max protects to help out the quarterback. I think this is going to work well in a style against Georgia with what Jalen Walker and the Williams kid coming off the edge are doing to some of these teams. You have to have a little more max protect in there, and Florida likes to play out of those packages. Georgia likes to get aggressive on the outside, and Florida can maybe make some plays down the field. We saw a couple of these receivers kind of making plays. I think Florida can get on the board a little bit and hang around with Georgia, and I don't think that'll allow Georgia to open it up. Also, same side on the Gator side. Their secondary, I think Marshall's coming back. Some of the secondary is getting a little healthier for Florida, so they're going to be able to cover all these weapons that Georgia has. I think they'll be able to hang around. I think it'll lead to a closer game. I'm going to wait and see how the spread goes before kickoff, but I'm leaning Gators and I'm leaning under.
Nice.
I do think Georgia's going to win.
I think this game has a lot of on the line for Florida. I think this is whether Billy Napier or not keeps his job. This game kind of sits on there. I think this is huge for a recruitment effort. If they put up a good game against Georgia, it keeps the players happy. We don't want to see your true freshman transfer out to another team next year. Next game I have here, Louisville, Clemson. Clemson's a 10.5 favorite here. They're riding super high. They're on an 8 straight home win streak here. 10.5 favorite over Louisville, who historically does not do well in November. Kind of a shaky little defense. I think Cade Klubnik has played really well with Clemson. I think he has 20 touchdowns this year. Tyler Show has been up and down all season. I think Clemson here at 10.5 is a fair point spread, and I like Clemson here at 10.5. They're playing at Clemson. Do you agree with me that Clemson should be dominating this game?
I think we're agreeing too much here, Kevin, but I do think Clemson's the hottest team in the country, and I love the spy here. Coming off the bye at home, and really just Louisville the last 5 weeks. I mean,
They've
at
been
Notre
awful.
Dame, SMU, a tight one against Virginia, Miami, and then Boston College. They pulled out of nowhere last week going down 20 in the first half. I do think, Louisville's actually a really good team. It scares me because their offense can score, especially if they get down. But I just think Clemson's turning into a wagon right now. They're coming off the bye. This spot, I don't see the Tigers slowing down. I'll lean with the Tigers. I'd like to get it at 10. I don't know if that number is going to come down. I doubt it, but I do lean to the Tigers here.
Charlie, how do you feel about this game?
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys said. I like Clemson in this game. I think Louisville has had a really tough season, like Stu said. Every game seems to be really, really close. But one of my favorite bets in this game is Louisville under 24.5 team total.
Oh,
I just think this is a game that Clemson, you've seen it against Florida State and against a couple other teams. When Clemson's able to build a 2-score lead, they kind of sit on the ball and know how to put a game away. And I think Clemson at home, I think they'll be ready to do that. I like Clemson to cover, and I like Louisville under their team total.
Love it. Next game, Wisconsin at Iowa. It's the battle for the Heartland Trophy. Iowa's slightly favored here at 3.5 points, looking to extend their recent winning streak against Wisconsin. Iowa's defense has been very good, but both teams' QB situations are a little rocky right now, with Wisconsin, Braden Locke taking over for an injured starter. I feel like this game is going to be a grind. I feel like Wisconsin defense might just keep this one close. I still have Iowa edging them out at -3. I also like this game to be over 41. I think that's a little too low for my liking. I think this is going to be a classic Big Ten matchup. Iowa -3 and the over at 41. Charlie, how do you feel about this game?
Man, we're agreeing too much today.
Oh,
'Cause I do agree. Those are my two leans. In fact, like, they're both. I don't know if I like it enough to bet it, so I'm almost thinking something I rarely really do, but I might tease this and bet Iowa
both?
plus 2 or 3 with the over 36 or something like that. Maybe
Sure.
like a 5-point teaser or something like that on that one. But yeah, I agree. I think Wisconsin, we kind of maybe got a little bit over our skis with how they played against 3 pretty shitty opponents.
Yeah.
So I think I don't know if they got exposed last week, but I don't think that progress we saw against a team like Northwestern is necessarily what I think they're going to be against teams at Iowa. So yeah, I like Iowa to slightly cover, and I would lean the over, which is something that was really profitable earlier this year with the Iowa games, hitting that over. I think it might come back this week.
Stupid Stu, please tell me that you're not with us on this one, because if we all agree, then what's the point of doing this?
I do not like Iowa here.
Yeah, there we go.
Wisconsin. With Iowa, we've seen a lot of money coming in on the Hawkeyes from opening lines the past 2-3 weeks. A lot of people are just riding with this Hawkeyes team. And I just think they're getting a little ahead of themselves, especially with the quarterback change now. Iowa's kind of stalled out on offense. Cade McNamara got benched, and now Brendan Sullivan's the new guy. I don't really like that spot, especially against the Wisconsin team that's kind of finding their rhythm a little bit on offense right now with Brandon Locke. They've been able to score Wisconsin was, I wouldn't say the Penn State game, they hung around a little before Penn State was able to open it up on special teams. They put up 42 on Rutgers a few weeks ago. I mean, Wisconsin's Luke Fickell kind of figured this out, and I kind of make fun of that. I didn't think he could. And I just don't know about this Iowa team. They've had some good weeks, but they've also had some stinkers. And I just think Wisconsin, you're catching points in a winnable game, catching a full 3. I'll take the Badgers.
How do you feel about the over on totals?
Man, betting an over in a Big Ten game. I can't bet an over in an Iowa game.
It's 41.
Keep
that.
I'm used to taking unders at 30, 35 with Iowa. I know there's a different Iowa team. I just can't do it without the quarterback change. I would say yes. Just Brendan Sullivan. I just don't know what to expect, so I can't take an over with a quarterback that could just be absolutely terrible.
Honestly, it makes me feel better that you didn't agree with us.
May I propose that Caden McNamara, it can't get worse than Caden McNamara? Like, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing either.
It's not necessarily a bad thing. Let's go for the next game. I have Pitt at SMU. I mean, we're talking about an ACC matchup here. Pitt Panthers taking on SMU in Dallas. They're going to be hosting game day for the first time. Pitt comes in as a 7.5-point favorite. Is that right?
Well, SMU.
Oh, SMU's the 7.5-point favorite here. They're ranking 7th nationally in scoring. SMU has a top 25 rushing game. I like this. I like Pitt here at 7.5. I think they have a chance to come in and put some numbers against SMU. I think this is going to be a fun little ACC jump. Charlie, how do you feel about this game?
My lean would be SMU.
SMU points?
Pitt did it again last week, where they blew out a team, but it was 3 pick sixes. It was just crazy.
But
it's just insane what they've been doing. Pitt is such a hard team to figure out. They've had crazy comebacks. They've had games where they won because of purely turnovers. I mean, Narduzzi was complaining that they couldn't run their offense because they had 3 pick sixes all in the first 3 quarters, where they barely had a chance to move the ball or get into any rhythm. 7.5 is, I think, a little too much to pull the trigger. It's hard to bet against a Pitt team that seems to have a horseshoe stuck up their ass.
So then you like my bet.
It's almost like my favorite bet, even though I don't believe it. It's just, might as well just bet Pitt money line. Just get that. Sure. It's got to be around plus 200 and just, if the Pitt magic's real, let's make some money on it.
Stupid Stu, how do you feel about this one?
Oh, man. I think this is too many points. I would leave with the Pitt Panthers here. Desmond Reed, the running
Oh,
back, is playing unbelievable. Pitt looks like they found their stride. I mean, this is an awesome game. Both teams on 5-game winning streaks. I mean, Pitt hasn't lost yet, and I just think Pittsburgh is one of these teams that's just they've got it going right now. Like Charlie was mentioning, 3 pick sixes in last week's game. I I don't know what to make of that. Besides, I think we were right. Kyle McCord stinks. Might be a little too late, but I was right. I was harping on that all season, and then he kind of proved me wrong. But no, he's back. So maybe we just need a short sell Syracuse. But I just think there's a little too many points. I do think this will be a really good game. I'll lean Pitt here with the points.
I like it. I like the move. I like the decision. I like being on your guys' side. Minnesota is hot off a 48-point game, heading to Illinois as a 3-point favorite. Gophers defense ranks 12th nationally, while Illinois has shown inconsistency, but will rely heavily on their 32nd ranked defense to keep competitive. Right here, I have this game as a defensive dog battle, under 45 points. Stupid Stu, how do you feel about this game?
I would go with the under too if I was making a play on this. I can't make a play on the spread at 3 because I think it's Minnesota or nothing, and then taking Minnesota to cover 3 against the Illini, I can't do that. Even though it looks like Minnesota's caught their stride, their offense has been playing really well under Max Brosmer. PJ Fleck has this team playing really well. I'm not going to bet against Luke Goldmeyer in a winnable game. I know Oregon last week was kind of a blowout for the Illini, but this team has still been pretty good throughout most that what we've seen throughout the whole season. So, if anything, I'll go with you. I mean, you could take the under there, 45.5. Both these teams like to move at a really slow pace. Both offenses can convert these third downs. You're really counting on some red zone defense there. It's not a very high over under, but I could ride with the.
I like it.
And I like the over, and I think I'm going to end up pulling the trigger. I think Minnesota's found something offensively this last month, and I think this Illinois defense is pretty bad. Like, I think they made Nebraska look like they had a good offense. Last week just got torched pretty quickly in that game by Oregon. And was it Purdue that they went to overtime with and gave up almost 52? I think the only team they've looked good against was Michigan defensively. And I think Columbus High School would look good against Michigan defensively right now with what they're trotting out at quarterback. So I think Minnesota's in somewhat of a rhythm. I think they're going to put up points. I think Illinois can stick with them a bit, especially at home. So I kind of lean the over. I'm not 100% ready to pull the trigger, but I think this is a game that'll end up close in the 20s. And I think both teams are going to be able to move the ball pretty well.
Interesting. So you're against us. All right, that's fine. We'll take it. Texas Tech at Iowa State. Iowa State is sitting pretty at minus 14 over here. They're heavily favored. I think there's an 81% probability that they're going to win this game and the point spread. I think they've ran, like, I saw something that they ran like 20,000 simulations here, and Iowa State has covered. My favorite thing here is Iowa State at minus 14. Stupid Stu, how do you feel about this game?
I like the Red Raiders with the points. I almost want to take Texas Tech on the money line here with how much you're getting plus 380. I do think Iowa State's been the best team in the Big 12. I don't think they've had this incredibly difficult schedule. And Texas Tech is one of these teams that they're lightning in a bottle sometimes. Last game shows it. I mean, huge slump to start, come back, take a huge lead, and then all of a sudden they're down big again. Texas Tech has seen it all, but I really like the way the offense looks. They can make plays. They've been able to score some points, and I do think Iowa State's a little better team here, but 13.5 is way too many points for me. I'll take Texas Tech.
Chucky, how do you feel about it?
I'm leaning towards taking the points as well. Iowa State just doesn't really cover spreads like this. UCF, West Virginia, they didn't really cover. They had those kind of spreads and didn't really come close to covering. I don't think they're too in danger of losing this game, but they're a big time situational team that'll play to the score, play closer, not necessarily gassing it up and just running over teams. So I think I would lean Texas Tech and probably be a play by the end of the week.
You guys are high. This game's going to be 36-21. Lock it in right
Yeah,
now. Lock in the exact score. Memphis at UTSA. I have Memphis. I'm just going to straight up tell you. I have Memphis covering, and I have the over 61.5, and I have the Memphis money line. I have a whole parlay just on this game. I just think it's going to be super comfortable. I think the Roadrunners are garbage. I think they have weakness on both offense and defense. I would say this game is going, easily. I see Memphis by themselves at 16.5 points. Stupid Stu, how do you feel about this game?
I mean, listening to your handicap, I'm glad that you said this is sounds like more of a play almost against the Roadrunners being garbage, because I do agree they're really bad. They
Yeah.
stink. Memphis concerned me last week against Charlotte. They did not look very good. I thought they would look a lot better than that Charlotte game. They almost lost it. So, this is a play against the Roadrunners. I could go with that.
It's a complete fade against the Roadrunners.
I'm not feeling great about Memphis after what I saw last week.
They're 7-1. They're not a bad team, but not convinced.
Charlotte that game.
Chucky, how do you feel about this one?
I think UTSA, UTSA last week gave up like a 5-touchdown lead.
No,
or
they're
something
so
like that
bad.
to Tulsa.
Yeah, they're so bad.
No, it was. I feel like they've had just such a weird season. Like it's just been so weird. Good offense. I lean Memphis as well. I'm pretty high on Memphis. I still think just talent levels they're above this UTSA team. I think this is one of those weird things you see in G5 right now is where you have two teams that I think shouldn't be in the same conference.
Sure.
It makes it so hard to evaluate teams, programs, and coaches because Memphis has such a resource advantage over what they're working with at UTSA. So yeah, I expect Memphis to take this one, cover the 7.5.
Like it. Last game I have Duke at Miami. We talked about it a little bit. If Duke comes in and beats Miami, I don't think it's going to happen. I think Miami is a way better team. And I'll tell you what, I think against FSU, Cam Ward had arguably his worst looking game, right? He looked a little frazzled. He looked rushed. He looked too intense, which we're not used to seeing from Cam Ward. I think he comes back in this game, puts Duke in their place, puts Manny Diaz in his place, and just freaking dominates. I don't want to say I want Miami at 21.5, but I almost want Miami at 21.5. I do like the under here at 54.5, though. Stupid Stu, I'm going to send it to you because I don't want to hear Charlie's negativity. Please, put him in his place.
I am not a fan of the under here, and I am not a fan of Duke with the points. I know you didn't take them. I'll take the Canes. I think the Canes are playing really well. I think Duke is a fraud. This is a great story for Manny Diaz. Good for him to have the record he has. I mean, this is a team that's just cannot score the football. And you're going to go into Miami and beat a Cam Ward team or even keep it close. That's not a good matchup. If Miami jumps on Duke early, this might get really ugly quick. Miami's running the ball well too. So even if Duke's defensive line could get any kind of pressure, which is very difficult for me to believe that's going to happen, Miami's going to be able to run the ball and effectively. The receivers all over the field are playing unbelievable. Arroyo's playing great. Horton had an unbelievable game last week. He's jumping out of the building. Strepo, I just think Cam Ward's going to get it going again. Florida State did a really good job of taking away Miami's pass game, but they couldn't stop anything on the run because they had to sell out for the pass. Yeah. Miami's got too much explosiveness for this Duke team. Duke struggled to score against FSU with all the turnovers, struggled to score in a lot of their games, turned the ball over 6 times against SMU and still found a way to lose that football game. That's not going to beat the Hurricanes on the road.
Yeah, Miami's just so super biased, right? That there's a biased asterisk here. But one of the funnest teams to watch offensively. The few first games of the season, I was talking about it, how Fletcher and Martinez were kind of quiet. We didn't really hear much about them. It was the Cam Ward show. And I feel like the last 2 games, they finally kind of got their rhythm. That offensive line has started to solidify that running game. And you're really starting to see Martinez and Fletcher both playing pretty well. Martinez had a great game last week. Charlie, I'll go ahead and give you your 5 minutes to talk shit about Miami, but make sure I will mute you. I will mute you if you start saying that Duke is going to beat us.
Listen, do I think Duke's going to win? No. Do I think this Duke team is good? No. They were spotted 5 turnovers against SMU and couldn't beat them. But Duke has a chance to do the funniest thing ever. What Miami did to that man, Manny Diaz, was one of the most depraved and just just no morals, immoral, just wrong.
How is that the worst thing?
This guy was out recruiting on a trip while you guys were out negotiating and signing another contract with another coach. It's like literally unprecedented in the coaching market. It's embarrassing. It's not surprising for that institution. But, I hope, if all's right in this world, that Manny Diaz will get his revenge. I don't know how with this team, but if he did, it would just be the funniest thing ever.
Listen, the only thing that Manny Diaz did right by you was introduce the turnover chain, and that lasted for a season. And then it was super annoying, and I hated it. I do not think that Manny Diaz deserves to beat us by any means. He destroyed the program for however 2-3 years that he was here. Absolutely. He wasn't good.
Yeah.
He wasn't good. I think, man, I'm hoping that Miami just destroys Duke. I do feel though this is a classic game that Miami loses.
Duke is not good at all.
Yes, historically though, Miami always loses to a shitty school. Let's be real. Like, it happens. It happens. You know, we've lost to Florida before, for God's sakes. I'm kidding. No, I don't think we will lose this game, but God, there's something inside of me that's saying, "Oh boy, get ready for it, for the Duke upset."
If karma is real, if justice is real, if the universe believes,
Hall of Famer in the NFL, right?
I know, no, you're right. There's sick people out there.
There's sickos
just
out there,
absolutely sick people
just
out
getting
there.
away with everything.
Yeah, no, it's crazy.
Guys, those are all my.
I like the over in the game too. I mean, I think even though Duke's been winning on
Yeah, I like
defense,
the over.
I think Miami's gonna get back to scoring. It's gonna force Duke to have to go for a lot of fourth downs. I mean, Duke couldn't hit a 29-yard field goal to beat SMU. I don't think they're beating Miami.
I think this will have to be Miami scoring 54 on them. I feel like they might be able to shut them out if they really wanted to. My only thing are those big plays that we talk about, how we give up these big, huge plays on first and second down, how they turn into a touchdown somehow, because our secondary just has a lot of missed tackles, and we haven't really cleaned that up yet. But, man, I would love to see just a dominant effort here, really solidify. I think we've talked about it before, how Miami doesn't have any big games left. So I think dominant wins really solidify them in that top 5 tier, and have some teams, hopefully when the college football playoff comes in and we win the ACC, we come in and teams are scared to play us. Because right now, I don't feel like Ohio State could not give a shit about Miami. I feel like they know that they could come in and probably rock us. But I think if we come in 55-0, 48-2, or something like that, we're crazy for the next 3 games, we're going to look scary. And maybe Clemson, we see Clemson in the ACC and take care of that business. But yeah, that's the last game I have. Stupid Stu, any big bets that I've missed?
I only have one other one I kind of like. I kind of like Toledo to cover against Eastern Michigan. I think Eastern Michigan is horrible.
Yeah.
I think they're really bad. And I kind of like the spot with Toledo. My fear happened last week. You know, they played against a really good Bowling Green team that when they play well, they can just smack you. This Toledo team's not bad. We've seen it all year. They've been resilient. I think they can rebound here in the spot. They need a big win. They're coming off that loss now. I think they're going to be a little hungrier. And I think Eastern Michigan stinks. I think they're going to walk into this buzzsaw, and I think we're going to see Toledo get back to what they're doing and cover there. And then the other one I'm leaning at, and I think I'm leaning with the Noles. They're switching to Croman Hoke. I think he's a lot better than Brock Glenn.
What are you doing? You love losing.
I also think North Carolina stinks. North Carolina has got to be feeling great after that win coming off the bye. Florida State's catching points here against a horrible North Carolina team. This is a really bad game. I think the Noles did play a better game against Miami. They didn't make as many mistakes. They're just not good. It showed, but neither is North Carolina. Everyone's been able to play with North Carolina. This would be a huge rally point for the Noles. Let's see if they can get that second win of the season now that the Bulls can rest easy knowing they're not going bowling. I think they can focus on the target, focus on the task at hand.
I can't disagree more with the bet than right there. Dude, Florida State looks so bad, man. Charlie,
they really do.
Charlie, how about you, man? Any missed bets, any missed games that we can think of?
No, I definitely keep tabs on the Instagram and see our picks. We'll have those out before the weekend. Still got some days to evaluate these lines and find some value.
Yep.
But I don't think, that Florida State pick, that is just unhinged.
That's unhinged. That is a desperate man.
I'm looking at North Carolina's page, and it just makes no sense. They just have crazy losses against bad teams and then just blow out a decent Virginia team. Who knows what's going to happen this week?
I know. I'm selling that. I don't know what happened with Virginia last week, but I know North Carolina's bad.
I made so much money on the spread against FSU. It's not even funny this year. I just bet the opposite every time. The FSU to lose every time.
On the better side for the Noles, I mean, they're turning the ball over. They turned it over less against Miami, and their defense is playing better. They actually played a pretty good first half versus Clemson. Then defensively, they played as good as you can versus Miami on the road. The fact that your offense couldn't get more than a first down. And then the Duke game, if they didn't turn it over 4 times, they could have beat Duke. And Duke is a little better than North Carolina. And that game was, on the road at Duke. So I just think the Noles, coming back home, I think they could actually beat this Carolina team. I really do.
I almost want to bet it just to side with Stu. I just want to bet it. I'm gonna do it. Guys, that's it for me. Do you guys have anything that we missed? Anything like that?
No, To hell
I
with
love
Georgia.
it. To hell with Georgia. Make sure you guys follow, subscribe, like. Guys, check out our website. Check out the merch. I got my little Parlay and Pray shirt. That's one of my favorites. Stupid Stu's got the money symbol there with all the betting terms. Make sure you guys like. Make sure you guys subscribe. Make sure you guys check out the website, www.firststeppodcast.com. Follow us on YouTube, on Spotify, wherever you guys listen to your podcast. Thank you guys so much. Have a good night. Thank you.
You've been listening to First Step.
We told you we don't take this too seriously, didn't we? I'd say we've proven that. Yes, we love sports, and we love sports betting. But we like the funner side, not the stuffy side. We hope you had a blast like we did. If so, make sure to like, rate, and review. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, find us on Instagram and TikTok at First Step Bets.
See you next time on First Step.